Benny the Butcher claims weird nerds have taken hip hop from the streets. There are a crazy amount of layers to this conversation, bro. Crazy amount of layers. And what we gonna do is peel them back one by one in this video. We gonna peel them back one by one. And the deeper we get into the layers, the deeper the conversation gonna get. Now, I could read this article, but there's no point reading this article because there's a video of Benny the Butcher talking about it. All right? Check this out.
Hey, yo, y'all see what state the game is in when the streets don't hold the culture of the game? Now that the weird Twitter nerds and the nerds and all of these weird motherfuckers got, they got their hands on the culture. The voice of the streets don't mean as much as it did when we was coming up. There was a lot of cons to that as well. You know what I'm saying? I gotta say that, but you see what happened when the streets, don't control the game no more.
Now, I hate to break it to you, Benny the Butcher, but you're a nerd. That's number one. Let's get this out the way. Number one, Benny the Butcher, you are a nerd yourself, and we can break this down in multiple ways. Your ability to rap, your ability to put lines together, that took you studying. And before we even keep going, before people, let's look at the definition. A person who is extremely enthusiastic and knowledgeable about a particular subject, especially one of specialist or niche interests, right? Specialist meaning a lyricist. You had to study, break down, and really piece the pieces together by watching other MCs be lyrical and put your own formula together. My boy, you are a nerd. You are a nerd. Even with the stuff that Benny the Butcher be talking about that is related to, quote unquote, the streets, right? When we talking about cooking stuff and selling and all that different stuff, right? You had to do mathematics. You had to do science. You had to do a lot of different things that nerds would do. The only difference is your product wasn't the same as the nerd. You might have not been in, you might have been outside instead of being in the science class or whatever, whatever. But you was doing the same thing. Your product was just different. You're a nerd. And the reality is there's a lot of people who pretend that they was born gangsters. Like you was born in the streets. You were born a product of, you were born in the environment, right? But all of y'all, all of us were nerds first. You had things that you were super interested in as a kid. Coloring, colors, toys, video games. You feel what I'm saying? A bunch of different stuff that you had interest in. Basketball, football. These are all things that you had to study and you had extreme interest in. And this is why you chose to do those things. You were a nerd first before you became a celebrated hip hop artist. You had to be. And the people who aren't, it shows in their art. But Benny the Butcher, you are not one of them. So to pretend like you are, to pretend like you just this guy who, no. And that's the problem, okay? Number two, when have the streets ever controlled hip hop in the history of the genre? Let me know. Because as far as I'm concerned, from the perspective he's talking about, because think about it, he's talking about it from the perspective of separating the streets from the nerds. So we know exactly what he's saying. We don't need the context, or we don't need the extra words. We know what he's saying when he separates the streets from the nerds, right? From that perspective, when have the street guys ever controlled hip hop? Can somebody let me know? Because as far as I'm concerned, the street dudes who got into hip hop always had to answer to the powers that be. The ones that want to push the message in a certain direction in order to influence the generation. So when did the streets ever control hip hop? When have we ever controlled? Now, we control the culture of it, right? But it's heavily influenced by the seductive powers within the industry. And from that perspective, from what he's talking about, hip hop has never been controlled by the streets. It's been pimped, it's been abused, and all that. As a matter of fact, if there's ever been a time that hip hop was controlled by the streets, It seemed like y'all the niggas that sold it. All the street dudes that's in it be taking advantage of boo boo and all this different stuff. Now, obviously, there's a separation between people who do this and people who do that, of course. But I'm just saying, from his perspective, this whole concept makes no sense. And I don't know why people keep bringing this concept up. It don't make sense. Now, the next reason. Let's talk about the glorification, or matter of fact, or actually not the glorification, but I would say the disregard for intelligence, the disregard for being able to study something and then express that thing, or then add that thing to your talents, or then whatever. The ability to do these things is shunned. It's shunned. When in reality, that's the thing that's going to take you where you want to go. And they make you ashamed of calling yourself a nerd or calling yourself somebody who, or whatever. Because in reality, it's really tied into, anti-intelligence. If we're being honest. They encourage people to hide the parts of themselves that is actually going to get you the win. The studying these things, being excited about these things, being enthusiastic about these things. There's a reason why I have an abundance of friends. And I had to really understand, I don't even want to, I have an abundance of people in my life. And I really had to understand that by being around people or getting to know people who do not. And one of the major differences is when you allow yourself to be open to who you are in totality, you can now relate to, conversate with, and be around multiple types of people. Boxing yourself in it doesn't help anything or anybody. It just limits you. You are more than a street dude. You are more than a gangster dude. You are a human being. This concept of streets and boom boom existed. Like these things came after you. After you. As a human being, as the collective consciousness. Now, you are a product of your environment, of course, and it's your job to grow out of that. Because maintaining the same perspective that you had when you was living in a corner of the fucking world is limiting. And you damn near not walking around with freedom. How? You not even embracing every part of who you are, motherfucker. You a nerd. And that's okay. It's nerds who sold drugs. It's nerds who shot people. It's nerds who did a lot of things wrong. And that's the reality. These people who was in these households and nerds and could have been the roles that grew from concrete. It's the same reason they be getting on Tupac. They be getting on Tupac because Tupac embraced all sides of himself. The side that loved Shakespeare, the side that loved film, the side that loved to read, the side that loved to, you see what I'm saying? He embraced all of that about himself. And that's why these conversations around Pop be, oh, he wasn't really like that. Because he didn't stay in that lane of just being this dude from the streets. There was much more. And that's the example. When you get caught up in these things. And then we end up losing these incredible, brilliant minds. And that's the cycle. Okay? And we low-key could go a whole nother get deeper with these layers. But this is just the summary, bro. Benny the Butcher, you're a nerd. Your ability to put lines together, your ability to be able to study the craft and then create your own formula, that's science, my nigga. You're putting the pieces together. You're a scientist in reality. Even what you rapping about, the drugs, the selling this, all that different stuff, mathematics, science. It's just not by the context of school books. You're still a nerd. It takes a nerd to get in the streets and set and all this different stuff. It takes a nerd to do this. Like, y'all, I think y'all are confused. As many are. But I'm saying, I think people are confused about what they put out there and what they. Oh, last thing, your fans are nerds. The people who buy your product are nerds. You're specifically Benny the Butcher. The people who consume your product are mostly nerds. Now, I do understand what he mean by nerds control. You know what I'm saying? There's people who didn't live in urban culture, didn't experience this stuff, who are making commentary on this type of stuff. I get that. But even then, there's more to the conversation than just dumbing it down and simplifying it to the nerds control hip hop. The nerds. No, you got into an argument with some people on Twitter. They packed you up a few times because you was making comments about certain artists, and you're upset after that. I don't think there needs to be a foregone conclusion about the state of this and state of that because of your interaction with somebody or interaction with people on Twitter. I just don't think so. Okay? But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, especially if you're new here, especially if you've been here. I'm definitely about to start no more talking. We just gonna do. Follow my Twitch. Follow me on Instagram, Sir_Bungus. Y'all stay tuned. We about to get active. I know I've been posting for a minute. I was doing some stuff in my personal life that I'm very proud of. You feel what I'm saying? And we could probably talk about later. But yeah, we back active. So here come the flood. Like, comment, subscribe, especially new, especially if you're here. I'm gonna catch y'all.